You're listening to Speaking Sidemount, the podcast where we talk all things sidemount diving, from equipment, skills, techniques, and sidemount diving expeditions to interviews with some of the world's top sidemount divers. Whether you're new to sidemount, been sidemount diving for years, or just want to know more, this is the place for all things sidemount. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Let's get wet. Hey, welcome to episode 2. I thought this would be a good time to look at some of the overarching foundations that make up a good sidemount diver. We've all seen bad examples of sidemount divers, and I'm sure you've found some very good ones as well. So what separates the good from the great from the rest? Well, for me, it's the foundational skill set, the basics if you like, practiced over and over so that they become second nature. A good sidemount diver is easy to dive with. They execute their dive plan well, with near perfect stability in terms of buoyancy control and trim. They move efficiently through the water and have minimal to no impact on their surroundings. They're easy for a boat crew to work with regarding equipment management, getting in and out of the water. So what are these foundational skills that we need to master? Let's take a look. Foundation 1. Master your equipment. It should go without saying that you must know your equipment, how it functions, its maintenance requirements, how to set it up for a dive, and how to store it post-dive. For sidemount diving, beyond the standard dive equipment of exposure suit, mask, fins, etc., you'll need to set up your cylinders, your regulators, and your sidemount harness. Ideally, your cylinders will have modular valves, meaning one right-handed and one left-handed. This means that you can orient them and have both valve openings facing towards your body, which provides the opportunity to protect your regulator first stages. Steel or aluminium cylinders. Which one you choose depends on the diving you'll be doing. There's no absolute rule, but generally I'll use an 11 litre or 80 cubic foot aluminium cylinder in freshwater and or with a wetsuit, and I'll use a 12 litre steel cylinder in saltwater, and in particular for dry suit diving. The reasoning is mainly around buoyancy and the amount of weight you want to carry on your system. Remember, aluminium cylinders become neutral to positively buoyant below about 100 bar, and they are very buoyant at 30 to 50 bar. For both your regulators and sidemount harnesses, I recommend going for dedicated sidemount systems. There are many hybrid harnesses on the market from reputable brands, but unfortunately these harnesses are compromised by definition and are overrepresented in poor examples of sidemount diving. I know you can lay blame on the diver and not the equipment, but the truth is dedicated sidemount systems tend to be more streamlined, easier to set up, and much easier to gain stability and trim. We're going to cover a lot more on equipment in future episodes, including taking a deep dive into a few systems, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a start for equipment. Foundation 2. Mastering stability. This skill is the foundation of everything that follows. Without stability in the water, it is very difficult to perform skills, and they'll break down when you're task loaded or under pressure of an emergency. Stability itself comes from correct weighting, correct positioning of the weight on your sidemount harness, correct body position, correct operation of your BCD, the ability to use your lung volume to influence buoyancy, correctly trimmed cylinders, good gas management, good management of your dry suit if you're wearing one, and correct overall trim. I know it sounds like a lot, and it is, but stability is the absolute hallmark of a good diver, and the ability to hold position in the water without finning or moving your hands will serve you well in all of your diving. I spend a large amount of time on my courses ensuring students have stability dialed in, and we revisit this often as we lay our sidemount diving skills on top of this foundation. Foundation 3. Mastering sidemount skills. Sidemount diving itself is easy once a diver is stable in the water, but there are some skills that separate a good sidemount diver from the rest. Efficient donning and doffing of cylinders both on entry and exit from the water, including stowing hoses. Good sidemount water entry technique, be it from shore or from a boat platform. Gas management, regulator switching, checking pressure gauges, and of course propulsion techniques including frog kick, helicopter turns, and the dreaded backwards kick. I've found that having a process or a system for each skill set works best. Now here I mean having a specific, well thought out method and order in which you do things. By having a specific method for each of your skills, it means that you can drill these on land as well as water. And a good example is donning cylinders. I have a very specific process for the way that I don cylinders. I always don my left short hose cylinder first, and I have a specific set of steps that I go through to ensure that that cylinder is correctly mounted and that I have my regulator hose in the right position such that it is breathable and that my inflator hose is connected. And I have all of this done before I move to my right long hose cylinder, and again I go through a very specific process for making sure that that cylinder is correctly donned and ready for diving. Foundation 4. Mastering emergency drills. Whenever we enter the water, we need to be mindful that we're entering a foreign environment that is very unforgiving of mistakes or complacency. Learning and practicing emergency drills until they're burned into our subconscious will be a skill set that can be relied upon in an emergency. Remember, your worst performance in training will be the best that you can hope for in a real emergency. Top of the drill list is out of air or out of gas, not only because of the urgent risk of drowning, but also because out of gas can be a precursor to other diving incidents such as DCS and lung overexpansion injuries. Mastering the out of gas drill, where each diver takes turns at being the donor and receiver in an out of gas situation, is essential, as is practicing this at the commencement of each dive. This level of practice will provide the greatest chance of success in a real emergency. Other emergency drills include valve shutdown drills for a regulator or a hose failure, regulator second stage free flow drills, BCD inflator drills, and bungee breakage drills. Mask removal and replacement drills can be independently practiced and then combined with other drills as skills develop to provide a cascading failure scenario. Not only are these drills a real test of your skills, but they also help you to bed in stability and awareness while you're occupied with the specific tasks of a drill. A couple of important notes when thinking about drills. Firstly, they should be practiced at shallow depths until they are perfected, ideally 6 meters or so. This lessens the risk of an accident in the event of a catastrophic fail performing the drill. And also, let's not forget we're diving for leisure. It should actually be fun to drill and test yourself, so don't be too hard on mistakes. This is why we practice, and a mistake is just a sign that more work is required. Within each of the foundational 4 pillars is a myriad of skills and drills that make up a good side mount diver. So let's reiterate these again. Equipment, stability, side mount skills, and emergency skills. Practice them until they are burned into your subconscious such that you can execute them at any time. Well, I hope you got something out of our session on the fundamentals of side mount diving. And when I think about the fundamentals, one diver's name comes to mind. Tomasz Michur is one of the world's truly great side mount diving technicians, and I'm really pleased to have him join us on the show today. Hey, welcome back to Speaking Side Mount. I'm Steve Davis, and joining me today on the show is Tomasz Michura or Michur. Michur is the owner of Sidemount Silesia in Poland, and if you don't know him by name, I'm certain that you will have seen his videos where he performs side mount skills diving with anywhere up to 10 cylinders, all in perfect trim and stability. Michur, welcome to the show.
Hello. Okay, it's nice to meet you, Steve. Finally, we are seeing each other. We've spoken a number of times over Messenger or Facebook, but I have never had an occasion to talk to you in person. And I know we share the same passion. By the way, Steve, the pronunciation of my nickname was almost perfect. Okay, it's Michur. Okay, I love the way Germans pronounce it, Michur. Okay, or Michur even. Okay, but I really hate. But I love German people. Okay. Because they love side mount.
Well, thanks very much. I think firstly, as I said, I know you from video, and you and I have chatted a little bit about diving and tried to get together even a couple of times. But tell our listeners a little bit about you and your background in diving.
So, I started off, as usually all the people here, or most of the people I know from Poland, in Egypt. I was in Egypt, just snorkeling on the surface, enjoying the beauty of the underwater creatures and the overwater creatures, the Russian girls, for example. And I saw a number of divers down below, and I said to myself, I need to try and do it. So as soon as I arrived in Poland, literally at the terminal, I just made a few phone calls to friends of mine whether they could recommend some diving shops or diving centers in the vicinity of my hometown, and they gave me a number. And believe me or not, on the same day in the evening, I was already attending a 4th swimming pool session. And nobody had before told me about jackets and cylinders and regulators. So the instructor, I will not tell you his name, he just dropped me into water, explaining a lot of things. And I, not panicked, but I didn't like the experience. So I said it was not for me. I gave it up for a year. Mm-hmm. Next year, I got proper instructor. And that's how my journey began. So that was just one single cylinder, then a twin set, pretty heavy one, okay, two 12-liter steel cylinders for Polish waters, and a dry suit, of course. And the story began. That was the arrival of Sidemount.
Sure. And so how did you get into side mount? So from those beginnings, I'm assuming you started back mount, and then where did the side mount story start?
Okay, a little bird told me that you have already interviewed the guy that really inspired me. So I know I'm not going to be, someone who says this for the first time. I believe, 90% of all divers inspired by Stephen Boggart's famous razor video. As when I saw this for the first time, I got goosebumps, really, literally goosebumps on my body. Okay, and the music, because I'm also a musician by profession, so a drummer. Okay, so it was like, no, I need to try and do this. Then one day I went to one of my quarries in the neighborhood, and I saw a woman carrying 2 aluminum cylinders. And I saw her in the water, perfect trim. She was taking pictures. A few years later, it turned out it was Irena Stangierska, the world famous photographer. Yes. And I only found out about that, when we met finally, and we contributed to a number of different photography sessions. And I said to her that she was one of my inspirations, one of the factors that really, convinced me, that I should try and do side mount diving. Ever since then, side mount diving has been my priority.
Right. And you saying that you're basically self-taught, or did you seek instruction from somewhere?
No, of course not. I enrolled for a course, because I believe whatever I do, I never trust my intuition. I always do a proper course. One of my, let us say, rules is that every year I attend a different course from a different instructor. That's how I get experience. So I enrolled for a course, but of course that was not enough for me. So I studied Steve Martin's videos. I studied Steve Boggart's videos, Gary Dallas's videos, a number of guys going through the videos slowly, capturing every still that was available, or to see, this guy is using that. And then of course, my experiment started. Yes. So I said to myself, why am I only copying? Maybe I could just try and do something on my own. And that was hours, hundreds of hours in the water later. So with a camera on, always recording myself, seeing and analyzing, I think I got it a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I mean, and that's the thing that strikes me. I mean, when I watch your videos, I look at you in the water and you're without a doubt one of the most stable divers I've ever seen. I mean, no fins, motionless, performing skills. How did you develop those skills to such a high level?
I have thought about this for a long time, to be honest. Not like, gosh, why am I so good? No, it's nothing like that, because I consider myself, a humble person. Yes, but the thing is that it might come from the fact that I was a practicing musician. So drumming required from me a few hours daily. So that was some kind of regimentation, some kind of a routine that I had to perform. So the same went for practicing skills in the water. Yes. So yes, every day, instead of going practicing drums, because I gave it up, because that's something that I should tell you, I am not a multitasking person. I mean, when it comes to passions and hobbies, yes? I got one hobby, I stay with that hobby, nothing else matters, right? So I gave up drumming, and instead of practicing for a few hours in the recording room, I went to a swimming pool, or I went to the quarry, or I went for a diving trip. I set some targets, right? And I said to myself, today I'm working on back kick, yes? And that's what I heard from Stephen Boggart once, that a lot of people underestimate the importance of practicing skills in shallow water. Yes. Because if you can do that skill in 2 meters or 3 meters, there's no problems at 5, 7, 8, 10. Right? Sure. When you perform a skill at 15 meters, so then try and do it at 2. Or maybe it's a little bit more difficult. So, a lot of people were just, knocking their heads like, where the hell are you going in the winter time? Why again to the swimming pool? Because you know it all. I said, you never know it all. As long as there is something that you still aspire to, you're going to just be better and better. So still, I believe that there is a lot of things for me to do.
Sure.
So the idea of practicing for me is the most important thing of any kind of sport, and I still consider side mount diving kind of sport, not only sport obviously, but a kind of sport.
Yeah, I hear you. And perhaps we have a similar approach to that. And that actually, I tried to play the drums as well myself, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have a drum set in home?
I had a drum set and I sold it. This is a story, actually. I sold my drum set when I left America to a professional musician. It was a fantastic set. And I promised myself I would buy a DPV with it. However, been some dispute between me and my wife about that. Apparently it went into my dry suit and not into the DPV. So I've still got to try and find that again. But so I understand that whole thing about practice, because certainly with drumming, you need to be or music, you need to be practicing every day. The other thing, I come from a martial arts background, and one of the things that martial arts emphasizes again is practice, and perfect practice, and also repetition of skills. So
repetition,
exactly. You going over and over and practicing the same skill, not practicing it wrong, obviously practicing it in the correct way. And then by doing that, you better than, you build muscle memory, and all of a sudden it becomes part of you, and you own the skill, if you like. As you say, you're never perhaps perfect, but you can certainly develop a very high level through doing that. And not everyone has the opportunity to do it every day. However, consistent practice of skills is something that a lot of divers miss out, and man, I commend you for that, because obviously we can see it works. If you were talking to a side mount diver who wanted to improve their skills, apart from the obvious of going to practice, what's the 1, 2, or 3 things that they really should emphasize in terms of becoming a better side mount diver?
Maybe what I will say right now at the beginning to start with, okay, will not be liked by everybody that can hear it. But I would say, if you can't afford the side mount equipment, which is like a new BCD, a new harness, cylinders with special kind of valves or regulators, why can't you afford a side mount course from a professional? I'm not selling myself right now, okay? I'm talking in general. Yes. And that's what really, makes me wonder, because I understand that people say, okay, I learned to practice the dry suit skills myself. I didn't need a course. But here, every centimeter matters. You know it, Steve. Okay, you move the sliding gearing, or you move the harness. Okay, or the harness is too tight, or the harness is too loose, and everything matters. And then they watch movies by Steve Boggess, and they say it's all, sorry for the word, bullshit. Okay, they are lying to us. Okay, because we can see in the videos it's all perfect, and I go to the water, I have the same equipment, and I can't get the same result. Yes, so that's the first thing. So I would first of all start with a course from an instructor that's pretty experienced in side mount diving, not the one that has the side mount diving instructor certifications. Right. Yes. Okay. But the only time he was in the water was when he was getting the certification. So, someone who's really into side mount diving. That's the first thing. Another thing is, as we said, repetition of skills. Okay, and a buddy that is also a side mount diver, and a camera. So when you get in the water, and when you get yourself a camera, honestly, I have like billion gigabytes of my footage from my sessions. Every time I go into a swimming pool, every time I go to a quarry, I always take a camera, I just put it somewhere and record myself, and then I analyze everything I do. Why did I move that hand so quickly? Maybe I should slow down a little bit. Maybe if I do this that way, because when we're in the water, the brain makes some tricks on us. So we might say that what we're doing is perfect. Then we see it on the video and we say, oh my gosh, I'm in a diagonal position, not in a horizontal position. So a camera is a very, very nice tool for improving everybody's skills. Yep. So, and then another thing I would recommend is planning. Planning. That's like, you go to a gym, you go to a fitness club, you plan the sessions. As like you say, 3 times a week I go to a fitness club, and on that day I do this and that, like chest, and on, let's say, so today is Monday, as then on Wednesday we'll do the back and biceps, whatever. So why not do it when practicing other skills like side mount skills here? So back kicking on Monday, and something else, and on Wednesday how about stowing the long hose, etc. And of course, I would like to emphasize another thing, that it's not only skills, of course, that is required to be a good diver. We also have to dive. So, skills is one thing, but also plan a trip. Every second weekend, go somewhere and together with friends, and try to utilize the skills that you have managed to perform relatively well, underwater. in a pool. Yes.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you emphasize there is that you put the effort into the skills training and then go and have fun. Diving's supposed to be fun, right? But remember the skills training that you did. So use those skills on your fun dive.
Yes, that's one thing. Another thing is that it gives you a lot of independence and then, credibility for all the divers, because they say, all right, this guy is good because I can see his trim. Yes, okay, so he will help me if I need his help, okay? Or he'll never be trouble getting into water. That's another thing I would like to mention here. Sorry, if I go ahead a little bit. But what I'm working on right now is a video on how to get in the water, how to get out of the water in different environmental conditions. Yes, because that's the thing that I have noticed is other people regard sidemount divers, backmount divers, think of us as those ones who take 4 to 5 minutes to get into water.
Sure.
I'm trying to fight that impression. That's what I'm saying.
No, and I'm with you 100%. And what I find annoying, I don't like, I hate agency bashing or anything like that, but the agency that I represent, unfortunately, the manual says that side mount is not very appropriate for boat diving. And yet here I am, many hundreds of side mount dives. I dive 99% from boats.
From boats, yes.
And so this is bullshit, and so we need to change this thinking. And please carry on.
Exactly, Steve. So, and another thing is that, all right, so of course there are a couple of names of side mount diving instructors, who have their own videos, etc. And I would say that we should just make the community of side mount divers tight, of course, but also all those diving instructors should share their ideas. For example, on the different ways of getting in the water, getting out of the water, because we live in different environmental conditions. I live in close to a core that in the wintertime is 2 degrees Celsius, and I don't have a boat, but I go on trips, and from a boat, and I also have to go into the water with 2 or 3, 4 cylinders, side mount diving, and it works. But why not just share the ideas, and then we might have some kind of a discussion, saying why are you doing this that way? I will explain. Then someone else will say because I do it that way, and then we have some kind of a conversation leading us to achieve the final solution. Right?
Yeah, or some number of solutions, because there's always
exactly.
Way, but at least. I agree, because one of the things I see boat diving is it's relatively easy to get in and out of the water with side mount cylinders, with 2 cylinders, whether you don on the boat or in the water. But when you get to 3 and 4 and maybe 5, then it becomes much more of a challenge. So that would be, certainly if you had something on that, I think that would be a huge value to the community.
Okay, and yes, the multi-staging you also mentioned here. So that was my challenge some time ago. All right, sure. So I said to myself, of course, diving with 10 cylinders in a pool is not a great success. Right. So everybody now listening to me and thinking that I believe I made a great thing. Please forgive me for saying this, but I don't think it was great. It was just for me to see whether I was capable of doing it. Of course, diving with 8 side mount cylinders or 10 cylinders is out of the question. We don't need that. But I would say 6 cylinders is all right. I have been successful enough to come up with a solution of attaching the cylinders in such a way that it's very easy for me. So I run a number of different workshops just for people who are trimix divers, backmount trimix divers, and for a number of reasons, including the one that I'm just now touching. So the back. They come here just Michur, please show us the ways of donning and doffing the stages. We need 6, so we do some kind of workshop, and they can manage with no problems at all after. And the cylinders are trimmed and streamlined. Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So getting in the water, getting out of the water, as I said, and I would also recommend those new side mount divers to practice that skill. My students, sorry to say this, my students have to go in the water and out of the water 3 or 4 times prior to entering the water for the first time. So I ask them to don the cylinders first, then come up, guys, we'll take a cup of coffee, then they go into the water again, and 3 times or 4 times, and then we start the first session. And they see it with their own eyes that with repetition comes speed, but we need a sequence. Okay, so that's also another thing. Different sequences that you practice. Okay, there is a sequence of getting in, so you do it all the time the same way. Slow means fast, as the cavemen say, right? So that's my idea of practice. Do those things slowly. Remember, Steve, the drumming lessons? Okay,
I do.
So play the groove slowly and then you move on.
That concludes part 1 of our interview with Michur. In our next episode, we'll continue and investigate steel versus aluminium cylinders. We'll talk about Michur's innovative dual bladder configuration, about where he's taking his diving, and also share our wishes for the side mount community. All that coming up in our next episode of Speaking Side Mount. You've been listening to Speaking Side Mount from www.sidemountpros.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and consider leaving us a 5-star review. If there's something you'd like us to cover on the show, then let us know via our Facebook page listed in the podcast notes. Thanks again, and we look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Speaking Side Mount.